you're starting out as a cat breeder, it can be really difficult if things don't go the way you planned, especially when you're having your first litters. Now, we can have good litters and we can have bad litters. We can have litters where everybody's wonderful, the kittens are great, they go on to be really happy, beautiful kittens, and we can have litters where we lose the whole lot and it's an absolute disaster. When you have the disaster litters as your first litters, it can be super off-putting and very difficult to continue in the hobby. Now, I'm here in my kitten room and I am here because one of my newbies in my new cat breeders club was saying that they felt like giving up because the first couple of litters that they'd had been absolute disasters. They weren't able to get all their cats pregnant, and when they did, they lost kitten after kitten in the litter until there was one left that they think that they're probably going to lose as well. So that is the disaster litter, and I wanted to talk to you about that because the thing about it is that even 20 years later, I'm still having disaster litters. So when it happens to you at the very beginning, it can be just really hard to get past that. It's the luck of the draw as to whether or not you're going to get the good litter or the bad litter at the beginning, and what you do after that is going to determine whether you stay in this hobby or not. So let's have a look at, I'm here in my kitten room, let's have a look at some of the litters that I have right now, and I'll explain to you that even after all this time, I'm still having disaster litters. Let's start out with Jessie. Jessie's in here. There's little Annie wandering around. Jessie is in here. Jessie has an amazing litter of kittens. Just open this up. She had 2 babies to my big boy Toby, and they look great. They look great, but you'll notice there's something about these 2 kittens that is a little bit different, and Jessie's going to come out, so that might help us to be able to tell. Look at that big, beefy, gorgeous looking kitten. Hi Jessie, come over here Jessie. Oh, you're a good girl. Let's have a look at what else is in there. Oh, tiny little baby. Tiny little baby. Why? I don't know. I don't know why that baby's tiny. That baby is doing great, except for the fact that it is literally more than half the size, less than half the size of its sibling. No good reason. Still doing okay. It's not skinny. It's fine. It's just really small. So let's just close the door so that she stays in there because we're not ready for her to come out yet. Good girl, Jessie. So Jessie's litter was really good. She just gave birth quite easily and that was all fine. But we have this weird situation with these babies. I don't know. All right, let's have a look at the next litter. This is Becky and her litter. Now you'll notice that Becky's sitting over there in the litter tray. Becky acts weird. I don't know. Becky just is a strange cat. Becky, her babies are all fantastic. These guys should not be trying to get out of the box yet, but they are. They're trying to get out of the box. I think Becky's having a snooze in her litter tray because her babies are absolutely wild and very demanding on her. So she tries to get away from them a little bit because they are very, very active babies. Really happy with them. Really happy with them. Becky just popped them all out, but she did have one baby that had passed away. Now Becky, again, Becky of the weird behaviour, Becky gave birth on the floor of her pen, here. Not in the box. Put her in the box, still came out and gave birth here. She did have one baby that was dead when it was born, and the other 3 are doing amazing, amazing. These babies are very, very healthy little babies. So really happy with that, but Becky is the weird one. So Becky's weird behaviour, it's Becky sitting in a litter tray. She would pull the box out, go behind the box. She was just not a very compliant cat. So Becky was a little bit of a hassle because we had to deal with the Becky factor. Becky's babies were fine, but Becky did lose one of her babies. One of her babies had passed, so we did have to deal with that. And that's not always, that's very unpleasant to have to deal with. But it's just the way it goes. You'll win some and lose some, and there'll be some missing from most litters. And here is the source of all that background noise. These are Annie's babies, and they are beyond delightful. Like, just amazing little babies. Really happy with this litter, 0 problems with this litter. They're just starting to use, they've barely pooped outside of the tray, they've started to use the tray, they drink, they eat water. And Annie's doing great. This is not Annie. This is not Annie. This is Annie. These are Annie's babies. This is Gerda. Gerda is the disaster girl. So out of all the 4 litters that we have in the room, Gerda's was the disaster. So Gerda acted like she was pregnant. I thought she was pregnant, but I wasn't 100% sure. So Gerda came in at the same time as the other 4 cats, and Gerda was due to have her babies at the same time as Jessie. And that time came and went. And so I thought, well, I've misjudged it. You're actually not pregnant. She wasn't very big on either side. In fact, she wasn't big at all. But the only reason I did think she was pregnant is because I felt that she had boobs. So when she didn't give birth, I thought, okay, well, that time's passed. Annie, who's up here, was out and she was walking around in the room and she was quite happy, and Gerda was quite happy to be friends with Annie. So I let Gerda out of the pen, thinking, you can just hang out with Annie and I'll put you back out with the other girls, you know, soon. But you can be company for Annie. That night, she got in here with Annie's babies and they started feeding off her, I believe. And that triggered her to go into labour, and she gave birth to 2 dead babies. I came back in and found her in here with these 2 guys snuggled up to her, cuddling up to her, and there was a baby over here, dead, and there was a baby over here, dead. Now, I don't believe those babies were live born. I believe that they were dead. I think that the time for her to have them had been and gone, and that eventually she would have just birthed those babies as dead babies, stillborn babies, no matter what. But I think the kittens probably triggered her to do that sooner rather than later. And yeah, so these 2 little guys were here and present for the birth of those 2 dead babies, and were in the pen with them until I noticed in the morning. That's a huge disaster. That's an absolute disaster. Like, that's a disaster that was caused by my actions letting her out into the room with Annie. Annie didn't care. Annie was just sitting up here watching, weren't you, Annie? She was like, well, she's babysitting. I'm good. So then we put her back in the pen in case there was more to come, and there wasn't. And after a day or so, I let her back out, and she's just been obsessed with these guys. So my decision was that Gerda is going to be desexed. Gerda will never have kittens. So she might as well borrow these ones for a while. I'm okay with that. Gerda is also my disaster girl from last season. Last season, Gerda gave birth to 5 babies. Of those 5 babies, only one of them survived. There was one that was born that was really a tiny little nub of a thing. It wasn't a fully formed kitten. 2 were born breech and didn't make it through the birth. Another one was just born dead, and one was born alive, but passed about maybe 24 hours later. It was me feeding it and everything, and it still passed. So she was a disaster last season, and we rolled the dice to try again for this season, and clearly she is the disaster girl. So she will never have a litter of kittens. She will be desexed. But she's got these little guys to play with until then, and she's quite happy, and there's no reason why this isn't fine. People would say it's wrong, it's not her babies, but you know, she's happy, they're happy, Annie's happy. Annie's like, hey, someone else has taken over my parenting duties. I'm fine, I can just relax. Yes, Annie. So that's the story with these guys. In this room, we have 4 litters of kittens. We have 1 little baby, 1 big baby. We have 1 mum that's a little bit difficult to deal with. We have 1 lazy girl who's just abandoned her babies to someone else. And we have 1 girl who had the disaster litter. And lost the whole lot twice. So that in this room, there's good and bad. There's ups and downs. When if you're just having 1 litter or 2 litters at the beginning, if you had the difficult litter, if you had the girder, girder litter as your first litter, it would be very off-putting and very hard to stay motivated to stay in this hobby. But once you've had the other litters that are great, it makes it easier to deal with the litters that aren't. So the positives will outweigh the negatives over time, absolutely. This litter in this pen that we're looking at right now, these 2 little guys here, are perfection. They have been an absolute delight from the moment that they were born. Annie raised them beautifully until Gerda took over. Annie raised them beautifully, was a wonderful mum. She birthed them without any complications. It was only 2 in the litter. We didn't lose any kittens at all. And they have been an absolute trouble-free delight. Not even a sticky eye between them. So these guys are the perfection litter. Gerda's litter was the disaster litter. The positives will outweigh the negatives. But you will have the negatives. It's just part of breeding cats. When you do have the wonderful kittens like these ones, it makes it all better. And Gerda herself, Gerda came from a wonderful litter. Gerda is from my girl Jamaica, and Gerda was from a wonderful litter. Her and Bruno and Otto, they all turned out to be beautiful cats, and they were a very easy litter. The fact that Gerda's had difficulties is just the luck of the draw. So she's fine. She's going to be okay. She's going to be de-sexed, and she's going to be somebody's wonderful little pet. And, that's just the way it works sometimes. So if you're feeling that it's a bit difficult and a bit hard and a bit like, why am I doing this? Just remember that the longer you do it, the positives absolutely outweigh the negatives. And this is something that I tell my newbies in my new cat breeders group all the time. It comes up a lot. And we have members who struggle at the beginning because they have these sort of things going wrong and it's really hard to cope with. But having other people to talk to makes a huge difference. So if you're interested in learning more about my new Cat Breeders Club, I'm going to put a link in the comments for this video and you can go and have a look at what it's all about. But the biggest thing that everyone gets out of joining the club is the fact that you will be able to talk to other members. And we had the post that I was telling you about, it was posted anonymously. So that person isn't really outing themselves as having all of the problems, but they're still getting the support they need. And it's that support at the beginning that makes all the difference as to whether you stay in this hobby or not. And if you stay in this hobby, you'll end up having little kittens like this guy. Isn't he cute? And he makes it all worthwhile, doesn't he? There you go. Okay, hopefully that was all very helpful for you.